Hello everyone, this is Ange. You may not be aware, but I was actually a QC, or quality control, tester on the fan retranslation of If My Heart Had Wings, also known as Konosora. I want to use this video to describe my experience working on this project and how it was my first and favorite visual novel related project that I've worked on to date. For a very quick background, If My Heart Had Wings was released on Steam in English back in 2013. However, not only did they remove the 18 plus content, they made a lot of localization choices that were controversial, like changing references from boobs to eyes. Regardless, the visual novel was still very popular since the core story was still intact, outside of maybe Agahe's route. Shortly after, a team started by Padlock on FuwaNovel was stated to not only add back the 18 plus content, but also to retranslate the whole visual novel to not have a bunch of the controversial localizations. Around 2017, the translation was at a point where they could publicly hire QC. Without getting into too many details, while there were several people who signed up, I was credited as the main QC. I now want to talk about various issues I found in the process and show just how important QC testing is for visual novels and even video games as a whole. There was a bug where the game just straight up prevented you from reading on after a scene in the common route, right after a fade out with a conversation with Amane. It just kept you on a white screen forever, and you had no choice but to close the game. Apparently, there's some hard character limit in the code that creates a new line in the game to make sure all the text gets shown. With some of the longer sentences in the beta of the English translation, this caused a bug where voiced lines were not matching up with the text. For some reason, when the text had an English % symbol, it got removed in the text and turned all the rest of the text bold. The solution was simply to just put the word % instead of using the % symbol in places where that had happened. There were a few times where it looked like copying scripts over caused some incorrect lines to be used twice. You could see a couple of lines being used twice, and the translated lines most definitely did not match the original Japanese text. It did make reading some lines in the script or in the visual novel look and sound funny, even when the lines are completely different from the voice acting. I noticed some inconsistencies with how we presented locations like Windmill Hill and Flying Fish Manor. Basically, the question I had was to see if the characters should refer to these locations starting with the before the location. So for example, either Flying Fish Manor or the Flying Fish Manor. I tried to make sure any ellipses that shown were kept at 3, that's just more common in the English language, while it seems that in the original Japanese text, there are many times where there are at least 6 ellipses. However, the absolute biggest thing, and which may be a surprise to some, is that the patch for the Steam version of If My Heart Had Wings almost didn't happen. By default, the project was made to be a patch with a copy of the original Japanese version. It wasn't until we finished a full run-through of the original Japanese version patch that we attempted to work with the Steam version. There were a lot of issues, like animations and CGs not working, and even sprite glitches that made scenes really weird to read through. Thankfully, many of these issues were fixed just by making it so the main executable file uses the original Japanese version instead of the Steam's default one, so we were able to fix this issue within a few days. At any rate, we were able to fix all the major issues, and many people who were waiting for an uncensored release of If My Heart Had Wings or Konosora with a more faithful translation were very happy to finally read this. It personally still warms my heart to see people who read and enjoyed this version of patched I helped test. The original Konosora, or If My Heart Had Wings, is one of my favorite visual novels of all time, having a really good mix of down-to-earth slice of life, heartwarming feels, and engaging glider talk that I never thought I'd be interested in. I've since become a big fan of almost every pull-top visual novel written by Konoasta, like If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary and the Sky Full of Stars or Miyazora series. Anyway, I hope this video gave you a good idea of what QCing for a fan translation may look like. If you have any comments or questions about this visual novel, the QC process, or anything related to this video, feel free to leave a comment below. See you all in the next video.